Hi, Tiffany. Welcome to the Read by Moddy Body podcast. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me, Sasha.
Yes, and you're going to be telling us about Heartbreak, which I know that you have
Yes.
plenty to say. So, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, well, this is my first heartbreak story. I was in year 9, so I think I was about 14 years old. And essentially, I was a bit of a nerd, so I went one day to support my school at a debating tournament. And I didn't actually have a debate that day. I was just supporting the school and my friend's sister. And after the debate, I don't know if you've ever been to a debating tournament, but they have like little sandwiches that you can eat, or like juice and tea and coffee and that sort of thing. So I was just there with my friend, and then I saw a boy in a cadet uniform, and I was like, oh, I've never spoken to a boy that did cadets. And I was like, okay, I'll just go up to him, and I spoke to him. And we bonded over the fact that he also didn't have a debating tournament that day. He was supporting his sister, and that we both recently did Da Vinci Decathlon, which is an academic gala day. So it was both very nerdy. So we had a lot in common. Not really, but at the time it felt like a lot. And essentially we added each other on Facebook. He didn't really use it. We just sort of talked online, didn't really know what to do. And then one day we decided to try and meet up. But he had never really gone outside properly, if I can say that. And so I went to Chatswood Library and he went to like Gordon Library, but he didn't have a phone that had mobile data. So I thought I was stood up, and it was like tragic, but it was fine. And then we talked online and it was fine, and it kept going on like that. And then one day he decided he was going to make me something on Minecraft, and so he wrote my name into like the blocks. I never actually played Minecraft, so it was just my name, Tiffany, and then he posted on Facebook. So then that got a lot of traction from his friends, and I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, it's public on Facebook. Oh, everyone thinks we're dating. But nothing happened. It was just that again. And then one day we finally actually hung out in Chatswood, and we got a photo together on a photo booth. And then he entered it into a Valentine's Day competition at the store. And it was like the worst photo I've ever seen. But we didn't win because it was really awkward. But I was like, what does this mean? Does he like me? Because at the time I was like liking him. And then one day, it was actually Valentine's Day, I was sitting in Latin class, and then my year coordinator came to knock on our door, and she's like, Tiffany, I have something for you. And I was like, what does this mean? And turns out this guy had sent me a bunch of long-stemmed roses. So he sent it to my school, but he didn't have his name on it. And I think on the note, it was like, Tiffany, have a great day, smiley face. And I was like, who sent this to me? I don't know, because obviously I had so many Myers, not. But I was like really confused. So I was like, I have a great idea. I took a photo with these roses and then I posted it onto Facebook, and he was the first person to like them. So I was like, I knew it. This guy sent them to me. Anyway, so I was like, I'm pretty sure he likes me. It makes sense. He always wants to edit my work, and he's always asking if there's anything he can help me with. And he invited me to, his mum worked at a school, so he invited me to a school play there, and then he invited me to his house to help him with his music assignment. And he revealed to me accidentally that he had been stalking my Tumblr. So I was like, this is it. So it went on for a really, really, really long time. And we also like went on to like Model UN camps where there's plenty of opportunity to sort of like sneak in like a little kiss or something or hold hands, but it never happened. And then we had like a little drama because he was talking to my best friend at this Model UN camp but not talking to me, and it was like drama. And then essentially just one day we like just sort of started drifting apart. There wasn't really anything that kind of brought it on. And like there are specific moments that I remember, like we went to another debating tournament, and I was telling my friend, oh, like this person and I used to talk every single day, and we're not talking anymore. And like this other friend was like, yeah, let's go up to him. Let's go talk to him. And then we went up to him and I was like, hey, what's up? How are you? How's your debating? And then he just was like, hi. And then just didn't talk to me. And so I was like there awkwardly with my friend and we had just both been ignored. And there was also like another Model UN, sorry, it's very nerdy, but Model UN, and he was there with a group of friends. And then I was like, hey, what's up? And then he was like, hi, and then just left it. So it was really, really weird and kept going again. We also had Da Vinci. So this went for a whole year, right? Because we met at Da Vinci, essentially, or just after Da Vinci, and then we met again. And then his friends were teasing him like, hey, look, it's Tiffany. Like, why don't you go talk to her? So I was like, I don't know what's going on. He hasn't talked to me for a few months. And then suddenly as well, I got a text being like, Tiffany, please come to formal with me. And I was like, what is going on? Like, you don't want to talk to me. You're inviting me to your formal. And it was just so confusing. It felt like everything I was doing was futile. Like, if you send a message, you kind of got like a one-word answer, like, okay. And I felt like I was like putting all this effort and energy into trying to keep contact with someone who was just like not wanting to keep contact with you like back. And it was just like really, really confusing. And I was like, is it me? Is it something I've done? Is it him? Has he just like changed and doesn't want to be friends anymore? Or like, was it his friends? Like, have they said something? Because when we were there with his friends, like his friends sort of like kept teasing him about it. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on, and like shed a few tears, but like it wasn't like a huge sob because it wasn't like something broken. It was just sort of like something sort of drifting apart, and you just don't really know how to deal with that. And yeah, so like I just spent a lot of time sort of wishing a lot of things, like thinking, like I would think like a specific moment sort of made him like turn off and not want to talk to me anymore. Or like I'll be like, maybe I'm not smart enough, like because he had like hung around with a lot of smart people and like winning all these like academic competitions, and I wasn't. So I was like, maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm not all these things. And essentially, yeah, it just sort of was at a point where it's like, there's nothing I can sort of do about it. I don't really know how to interpret the whole situation. So what I kind of did at the time was sort of try and write a story about it. Like I wasn't much of a writer, but it's sort of like, because I knew that he was really good at writing. So I was like, why don't I try that? But I tried to like write about him, and it was just sort of like good to kind of have all of my feelings like on a page, just sort of being like, they're valid. Because I think that's like one of the hard things is like when you have a lot of emotion and no one else seems to be like going through the same thing as you don't really know like what that means. And like, so just having them on a page just made it like, oh, okay, it's like legit. Like I'm actually having these feelings and that sort of thing. Yeah, it was just sort of really bizarre because like it wasn't like he was at my school. So like no one really knew who this guy was. So I was just sort of like having to process it by myself. Yeah.
So, because you mentioned that you wrote a story, you still write songs about your ex-boyfriends and people, don't you?
Yeah. So I am a little bit of an amateur songwriter. I do write songs about people. I haven't actually written one for a whole year. Because I've started dating someone. Hello. But yeah, essentially like I would sort of writing is just sort of a way to kind of just have your emotions out there. I also cry a lot, but like I think crying's really good, and I purposely watch like sad films or happy films just to make sure I'm emoting, because I think bottling your emotions in isn't good for you. Yeah, and like sort of with regards to like my first heartbreak, like it was just meant like writing, and also like that was, I guess I was the first person in my group to sort of have any of like this super negative emotions about like a significant, not significant, but like a crush essentially, because yeah, we're all nerds. But yeah, so it was just sort of good to sort of talk about it, but it just meant like I was having that difficulty with my friends because they didn't really know what that was. So it was so that's why it's good to kind of, you write it, you read it, and you're like, okay, it sort of seems silly, but it's legit to me.
Yeah. And do you in the midst of all of that, like I know a lot of people when they feel rejection, they need some time. Like they take some time. Did you take some time for yourself and then kind of like be like, yeah, let's go again. Like,
Yeah. So like so when all this heartbreak was happening, I was in year 9, so I still, had to go to school and that sort of thing. But kind of just being with friends was good, because it was just sort of like you were actually going out and doing things. Like some people, they actually need to like take time off and just sort of like do self-care by themselves. But like at that age, I was like, I don't know what self-care is. So it was just sort of good to have a distraction for a little bit. And I was still like being really active in the school community, doing like debating, doing all of like rowing and that sort of thing. Like it was really intense, but it just meant like I was actually doing stuff for myself. I mean, in hindsight, I probably, if the similar thing happened to me right now, I'd probably have to actually take time off. It's like, it's a really heavy burden. Like you don't really know. Yeah, like it's just so much feeling that you're sort of like, you just need to sort of sit. It's just sort of weird. I think like a lot of people have different coping mechanisms, and mine would just sort of be like, you need to kind of take time off and sort of like sit and think about what's happening, and then just be like, okay, that happened. I'm going to carry that a little bit every day, but it doesn't mean I have to like stop and do everything.
yeah, like you don't have to carry that rejection. Like you can carry those feelings that you felt. You're not carrying the negative side of it in a way eventually.
Yeah, I think rejection as well, like when you kind of get older, like, so I'm 23 now, and like you get a lot of rejection from like jobs, and I'm also in acting, so I get a lot of rejection at casting calls, and it's like it's right to your face. So you kind of, in a sense, you sort of like have to build up that hard skin, like, or thick skin. Like you don't really want to, but you kind of have to. And it's obviously different when it comes to a relationship. Like it really kind of pierces through that, because it's like someone's rejecting you for you rather than like you for your ability. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like you're like, okay, like it's just happened, and now we have to take a deep breath and move on.
Yeah, and also that it can be more than just you. Like it can be, so often it's about them more so than you going through when you split. Yeah. What advice would you have given to yourself?
Oh goodness. This is probably a scary one, but if I were talking to my younger self, I'd probably be like, this is your first heartbreak and there's going to be plenty more to come, which is really sad when you think about it, but it's true. Like you know, at year 9, I was so young, and I was like pinning all these hopes on this one dude who would never really speak again. And then you get to like 18, and then you have another boyfriend, and it's like more serious, and then you've got more heartbreak. So, while you're young, just try and enjoy yourself. Like it's probably really cliche to say, but just learn from all your experiences. Like it's going to be your first heartbreak. It's going to be your first like holding hand, your first kiss, like that sort of thing. So you just got to learn from it. And then, when you're older, hopefully you meet someone that you get along better with. But even then, like even now, I'm just sort of like, I'm dating this guy at the moment. I'm like, it's great. It's going really well. Like we've been dating for 7 months, but I'm like, it doesn't mean that we're going to spend the rest of our life together. And I think that's something it was really difficult to deal with. So I had this like whole picture that I was going to be like a Disney princess, and you find that one Prince Charming and then you live with them forever. But I think at a certain age, I was like, it doesn't really happen like that. Maybe, I don't know if it ever did, but it probably won't happen like that for me. And once I sort of accepted that, I was like able to kind of enjoy dating and enjoy going out with the boys. I was able to enjoy that and be sort of more free, and I didn't feel so restricted. Like I didn't feel like, oh, I have to find the one. And I think that was helpful.
Where's Heartbreak Boy now?
Oh, so from his mutual friend, who I bumped into last year, I've heard he has a really, really long hair, and he's studying music production, which I think is kind of ironic because I had to help him with his music assignment all those years ago, so I deserve some credit. He also added me on Facebook, I think like end of 2018, And he's been inviting me to his concerts ever since, but we haven't actually met up, and I don't think we will.
Are you telling your younger self, like, it's okay, well done?
Yeah. It's sort of, yeah, we'll see. I have listened to some of music, and if it's anything that indicates how I would feel about him now, I don't like it.
Okie dokie, thank you so much
No,
for
thank
sharing.
you, Sasha.